Here are 10 lessons I've learned in 10 years of working across Big 4 consulting, founding 2 startups, and working in hyper-growing tech companies. Lesson 1, do things you don't enjoy. When you try lots of things throughout your career, it's inevitable that you will end up doing some things that you really don't like. The lesson here is to not look at those things in necessarily a negative light. Rather, look at the things you don't enjoy as a process of eliminating and getting closer to discovering the things that you do like. So lean into the things you don't enjoy and look at them in a positive light, because they will only help get you closer to what you will really like, what you will be really good at, and ultimately what you're meant to do with your career. Lesson number 2, what's hard now will be easy later. Think back to a time when you had to do something for the first time, or you had to figure out how to do something that you had no idea how to do. Hopefully you got through that, and when you look back at that situation now, it looks a whole lot easier to get through. So now in real time, when I'm facing something that I don't know how to do, one thing that really gets me through it is knowing that future me, that could be future me in a few weeks, in a few months, or in many years, is going to look back at this very moment where I'm struggling with something that is hard right now, and this thing is eventually going to be easy or easier. This also reminds me that every time someone does something for the first time, it's going to be hard, or they're gonna have to figure it out. And that also gives me a little bit of comfort, because it can help remove that feeling of imposter syndrome, of feeling like you're not good enough, or feeling like you're the only one who doesn't know what to do. Every time someone tries something new, it's for the first time. I have so many examples of things that were so hard in the moment I was doing them, and now when I look back, I think I could pick that up in an instant. So when you are dealing with something that you're finding really hard in the moment, just embrace that and think of your future self, and remind yourself that you very soon will look back on this very moment and this thing will be a whole lot easier. Lesson number 3 is to take off that time. Your team, your work, your colleagues, they are not going to crumble or fall apart because you took time off. This is a lesson I learned the hard way, because I really feel like we end up giving ourselves so much more importance than we probably need to. You know, there'll be phases in our career where we are very career focused and it's our priority. And we think if we take a 2-week break, if we take a 2-month break, if we take some kind of career break, that it's going to make or break our career, or it's going to make or break our team or the project that we're working on. Unless you're saving lives, it's probably going to be okay. And I was just listening to a book today called The Making of a Manager by Julie Zhou, and in this book she actually talks about this particular case when you're managing a team and you step away from the team for a while and you realize they're just carrying on without you, and you feel like you're redundant. But in those scenarios, what you can actually do is look at the time that you've freed up for yourself to focus on the next thing that your team or your business area could be doing. If you were constantly busy with the day-to-day of managing your team and the team was never really progressing or growing, you would constantly be stuck in that same place, and you would never find the time to think about how the business or your particular area or your team or you was going to evolve and seek out new opportunities. At the end of the day, if a business needs to make a decision that is best for the business, they're gonna make that decision. So as much as you might love your company, as much as you might love your leaders and your colleagues and the people you work with, which is important, make the decision that is best for you. Lesson number 4 is to create a career narrative. We tend to talk about our careers in terms of the roles we've had, how long we've had them, the skills we've acquired, and the experience we've had. But rather than thinking about everything we've done in our career as these dot points, think of your career like a story and craft the story and the narrative around the journey that has been your career. A really common example that comes up is when people want to take a career break, or they want to have a bit of a break between jobs, but they're so worried about how that's going to look on their resume. It's not about the gap that you have on your resume, it's how you explain why you took that gap and what you did with it. Especially in 2023, careers are so much more colorful and varied than they used to be. Thinking that your career needs to be continuous with no gaps and you must follow this set trajectory is so old school. So next time you're going for an interview or next time you're trying to make a decision for your career, don't worry about how things are going to look on paper. Whenever I tell my career story to someone, I genuinely feel like I'm taking them for a ride, and I know they feel that way as well, judging by their reaction. You know, recruiters or interviewers, they don't look at my career journey and say, why did you only work there for 18 months? Why did you only work there for 12 months? They ask me about the skills that I learned. They ask me about how I made the hard decisions to leave a job and try something higher risk. They ask me if and when I would consider starting another business and what kind of business I would want to start. They asked me about how the transition from consulting to startup founder was. They asked me interesting things about my career. Lesson number 5 is to apply for jobs at companies you admire or for people you would admire working for. Don't just apply for vacancies because you are looking for a job. Of course, people have different circumstances, and sometimes you just need a job to pay the bills, and that is totally fine. But if you have the opportunity to be a bit more selective, shortlist the companies that you admire, shortlist the companies that are doing things that you value and the brands that they represent for align with you, and shortlist the leaders that inspire you and have been on a career journey that you would like to go on. I feel like most people tend to scour through job listings on job search sites and apply to 1001 vacant roles. And I believe this is why people end up working for companies or bosses or in jobs that they really don't like, because they haven't proactively seeked out the type of company they want to work for or the type of person they'd like to work for. They've just applied for a job because it's become available in a search engine with thousands of other available jobs. I want to caveat this lesson by saying in February 2023, when I'm filming this, the job market, especially in the tech world, is very, very competitive. So I totally understand that at certain points in time, this lesson is not going to be relevant because sometimes you just need to find a job. The caveat here is that if you have a circumstance that allows you enough flexibility to be selective, to be exclusive, then really think about it, because it's so much better to be selective upfront rather than end up working in a situation that you don't like or you struggle with, or with people that you can't stand. Lesson number 6 is to teach others how to respect your time. Our calendars are always too busy. We never have time to do actual work because we're in meetings all day. We all know the feeling of not having enough time in a workday to get stuff done, or having to spend the entire workday or work week in meetings. The biggest lesson I've learned in regards to managing my time is, 1, I need to manage my own calendar. And when I start actively managing my own calendar, other people will also learn to respect my calendar. An example of how I actively manage my own calendar is, 1, putting in focused time blocks. I focus best in the morning. So depending on the week, I might block out 1 or 2, or depending on what I have going on, 3-hour slots in the morning when I know I need to get stuff done and I want to have uninterrupted time away from meetings. Now, the key to this calendar blocking is, if someone does try to book over that time, is you being stern with them and saying, hey, is there an alternative time you can find? And the more you do this, the more people will learn over time that they ideally shouldn't book over the time that you have blocked out for yourself. By calendar blocking, you are taking control of your free time first and deciding how best you want to spend it, when you are most effective for certain tasks, when you are most productive, when you can give your most to meetings. Block those times out, and then people will learn that the other times that are free is when you're available to have meetings with other people. But I'm just saying this as a base principle, is you need to first plan your calendar actively and teach people to book in times when you actually want them to be booked. Lesson number 7 is to seek diverse opinions. Someone might have a very strong opinion about something. You might have a very strong opinion about something, but it's really important to not let that sway you, not let that make you feel like you are wrong, or not let someone else feel like they are wrong. Seek opinions from different types of people, especially when you're trying to make a decision, and articulate the reasons why. Example of this from my own career is when I was trying to make a decision for whether I should leave a job I was in, only after 3 months of being in that role, to go and pursue another opportunity that had landed on my lap. Now, both of these opportunities were extremely different. So I seek the advice of 3 of my cousins who I really, really respect, especially with career decisions. And the interesting thing was each of them gave me the same answer, but they arrived at that answer for very different reasons. And what that showed me is that even if someone arrives at the same answer as you or the same decision as you, how they got there could be completely different. It's very, very interesting to learn about why someone thinks something or why they believe a certain decision is the right one. So I urge you to seek differing opinions when it comes to decisions for your own career, or differing opinions when it comes to decisions for your team or your product, or whatever kind of role you are in. Lesson number 8 is to climb the career jungle gym. One of my favorite explanations of how you should navigate your career. This has come out of Sheryl Sandberg's book called Lean In, where she talks about climbing the career jungle gym rather than the career ladder. And for me, this really represents not being afraid to try different things, different roles, different opportunities. It's not being afraid to take a slightly different turn in my career than I originally expected, and just knowing that I can still get where I want in my career. It doesn't mean getting to the top of a corporate ladder, by the way. It just means getting wherever I want in my career and not necessarily having to climb a predefined path to get there. And by actually climbing a jungle gym and by doing lots of different things, it can actually still get you to where you want to be, or it can even get you to a far better place because now you've explored different things that you otherwise may not have. A book that I recommend that relates to this topic as well is called Range, and the book Range talks about whether you should be a generalist or you should be a specialist, and whether one is more likely to be successful than another. You definitely need people in the world who are specialists and they go deep into a particular discipline or a particular niche, but the world also needs people who are generalists and people who try lots of different things and can bring context and understanding from one area into another. So don't be afraid to try different things. One, it doesn't matter what it looks like on your resume, and secondly, it doesn't matter if it's not a straight path. For me personally, the more colorful and the more jaggedy my career path is, the better, because it means I've explored so many different things. Every single thing that I explore makes me so much more well-rounded. Lesson number 9 is the importance of a supportive partner. If you're like me and your career is important to you, if your career involves taking risks and you just wanting to give a lot of energy to your career, it's so incredibly important that you have someone in your personal life that is understanding of that and supportive of it. For the longest time, I had this vision that my life partner should be someone who was exactly like me, someone who had the exact same career ambitions as me, who wanted to put as much energy into their work as I did. But in recent years, I've found that in fact, it's the best thing for me to actually have someone who's supportive but balances me out when it comes to that aspect of my life. So think about this for your own life. If you are someone who is really career motivated, you're really ambitious, you have big plans for what you want to do with your career, it's really important that you have their backing. And lesson number 10, do whatever it is that you want with your career. It doesn't matter what the articles say, it doesn't matter what someone is telling you is right or wrong. Do with your career what you feel like is right, because the only way in which your career is going to be successful is if you are happy. And most likely you're only going to be happy if you're doing something that you want, that you enjoy, that you like, and that you want to do. If you end up doing things in your career that you're doing because it's going to look right on your resume, it's going to help you get to a certain point in your career, or if one or more people are telling you this is the right thing to do and you have to do this, don't listen to it. Just do what feels right to you, because even if you take a leap to do something you want to do and it doesn't work out, you would have learned so much along the way. And even if it doesn't work out, it's something you've eliminated so that you can actually narrow down on the next thing that you should do. And those are the 10 lessons that I have learned working for 10 years across Big 4 consulting, founding 2 startups, and working at hyper-growing tech companies. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, please like this video, and I will see you in my next one.